Over 1/3 people have now signed a petition started by a survivor of CSE in Rotherham, Sammy Woodhouse. This is calling for a change in the law to ban any male with a child conceived by rape from applying for access rights to that child. Last year, she was made to relive the trauma of her ordeal when the courts said that her abuser could seek visits from her son, despite the fact that he was serving a 35-year sentence for his involvement in a grooming gang. Sheffield MP Louise Haigh was in Parliament yesterday to call for this change now. She joins us now. Lou, good morning.
Morning, Toby.
I mean, how have I got to 50 and never heard of this before? Have people just not been implementing this law?
So, well, part of the problem is that the family laws, because of the very nature of the cases that they're dealing with, are really secretive and opaque. They actually oblige the people that are party to proceedings not to talk publicly. So Sammy's been very brave in speaking out because she, I believe, technically is in contempt of court. But she obviously felt the very serious need to do so because of the nature of what happened to her, and because as she's spoken out, she's realised it's happened to other women across the country who've been in similar situations. So the problem is that the law as it stands is entirely permissive and allows anybody with any parental attachment to apply through the courts, drag their victims back through the courts and the children, and re-traumatise them all over again. In this instance, Sammy's son was under a care order, and in that instance, the local authority has a duty to notify anyone with parental responsibility and anyone with technically without parental responsibility. But they do have a right to apply for an exception if the father presents a safeguarding risk to either the mother or a child. And in this case, the father was serving a 35-year prison sentence for rape. So I think that's a pretty cut and dry case for a safeguarding risk. But it doesn't seem that they did apply for that exemption. So we think this local authority got it wrong in this instance, but we want to tighten up the law to make sure that it's crystal clear and that no man who's been convicted of rape and conceived a child should be able to weaponise the courts against their victims.
Well, Rotherham clearly got it wrong, and then the fact that they've tried to hide behind the law then when there was a way out, I think is contemptible. And the law is clearly stupid. I mean, this is cut and dried, isn't it? Is there anybody in the world who has suggested that this is a good law?
Well, unfortunately, the government. So Sammy and I met with the Minister yesterday, and as he said, I raised it in Prime Minister's questions, and we're kind of hitting a bit of a brick wall. They unbelievably keep putting up against us the rapist's right to a family life, and saying that the law, if we changed it as we wanted, would contravene his human right. And I'm afraid I just don't have any truck with that. And I'm so sick of victims like Sammy being failed by institutions, by the police, by the CPS, by government at every level, and then now finding that the legal system doesn't work in their favour at all. And people like Sammy have to fight for their most basic rights on an almost daily basis, and it just feels like they come up against the rights of their abusers at every turn. And so I'm not having it. So we're going to be attempting to amend the Courts and Tribunals Bill when that comes back to Parliament in the new year. And we're really grateful for all the public support we've had, because that's helping us make our case as well.
And well, surely this is going to be cross-party, isn't it? This can't be a political thing, can it? I'm thinking of all the councillors and MPs I've ever interviewed in my time. I can't think of anybody who would think this is good.
It's just, it's just common sense, isn't it? As you said, the law is completely ridiculous, and anybody with any sense of empathy or reason would not allow men who have been convicted of rape and are serving a prison sentence to use the courts in that way. So yeah, there did seem to be quite a lot of support from right across the House yesterday. So I'm going to be over the next few days, as we're all discussing Brexit in the wings of that, trying to garner support and push this from all corners of the House.
Lou, thanks very much indeed. Just wait there, 'cause we've got Sammy on the line now. Morning, Sammy.
Morning.
I can't believe I'm having to talk to you again about you being essentially abused again.
Yeah, it's just a constant fight. Every day I have to wake up and fight for something, as Louise has said. And for me, it just always seems that rapists have more human rights, and I just treat them more like human beings, really.
I'm so sorry for you that you've had to go through it all again. And I really want you to know that, and I'm sure you do know, everybody's on your side on this. It's ridiculous. What's it like having to go through it all again? And why have you chosen to go public? I think I know the answer, but just tell us why you've chosen to go public on it.
Well, when this went to court, that was actually last year. Now, the man that raped me actually said, well, I don't want to have any rights to her son. I don't want to see him. So my case was, and I know this is totally the wrong word, quite fortunate that I didn't have to get completely dragged through the court. But there's so many people out there that are going through it, and some of the stories that I'm hearing is just absolutely horrific. But it was only several weeks ago where professionals was suggesting that they will take my son up to prison to visit him. And you know, sometimes, and what I've realised is, if you want something done, you go to media. You know, I've been trying to raise this now in private because, you know, I am in contempt of court, but I've been raising it with the government since March. I spoke to Victoria Atkins, the minister, the Home Office, and I just don't feel like I've been taken seriously. But, you know, the thing is, I shouldn't have to keep doing this. I shouldn't have to keep putting my life out there, you know, doing these exposures. To have things change. And what all this boils down to, and Louise is right, we constantly keep hearing about the human rights thing, but what about the safety of children and women? Now, I have been able to prove in a court of law that man and members of his family was a direct risk to me and my son. I mean, it was only I think
he's an animal. He's an animal. We know who he is. We know what he is, and the idea that he should have access to your child is it's bizarre.
I know, and you know, some of the stories I'm hearing that, you know, these rapists are actually raping the actual children of these women as well, and still getting rights. And yesterday, I mean, when I had the meeting with the minister, I didn't leave feeling positive whatsoever. You know, and I heard very much as though, well, you know, the law states this and this is what should happen. Yes, I'm aware that children should always be at the forefront and their safety is the number one priority, but it's not happening. Judges are making terrible decisions. And I told her, well, they've got training. Well, clearly their training isn't working because it's still happening right throughout the country.
Sammy, thanks ever so much indeed for bringing this to everybody's attention. Thanks for talking to us, Louise. It's over to you, isn't it?
Well, with Sammy at my side, we'll be fighting hard in Parliament. I think this case obviously reveals a huge problem with this particular law, but a wider problem in the family courts as well. So I hope we can see real change as a result.
It's just misogynistic rubbish, I think.
Sammy for being so brave in speaking out. And as she says, you know, she's faced the most horrendous abuse and risk in putting her life on the line for this, and she shouldn't have to do it. But I won't stop until her bravery has been rewarded.
Good. Thank you. Louise Hagan, of course, Sammy Woodhouse, who's just made to suffer again.